Welcome to this explainer. If you're a freshwater aquarium hobbyist, there is absolutely nothing quite as exciting as setting up a brand new tank. It's a blank canvas. But let's be totally honest for a second. You also know exactly how frustrating it can be when things just don't go according to plan right out of the gate. You've laid out your substrate, your filter is humming along, but something is just missing. And worse, things might actually be starting to go a little wrong. We've all been there. You're staring at this tank full of open, empty water. You've got this completely bare glass on top, which honestly just feels incredibly unnatural. Your brand new fish are super nervous, they're acting skittish, constantly darting for cover down at the bottom. And then comes the ultimate annoyance. You start noticing it, that faint, dreaded green algae tinge creeping into the water column. Suddenly, you feel like you're fighting this massive uphill battle against your own tank's ecosystem. But what if I told you there is actually a biological shortcut? I'm talking about the ultimate cheat code for your aquarium, floating plants. This is quite possibly the single easiest weekend upgrade you can make for your setup. It completely bypasses the need for all those messy root tabs, you absolutely do not need expensive CO2 injections, and you definitely don't need a green thumb. These plants basically act as a biological hack, doing all the heavy lifting for your tank's ecosystem just by sitting there on the surface. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Meet the float squad, the best beginner-proof species. Now, these beginner-proof species are incredibly affordable. We're talking usually just $5 to $15 for a starter portion. But making the right first choice is absolutely critical. Let's look at Amazon Frogbit first. This is your safe pick. It establishes fast, it is amazing at exporting those excess nutrients, and it easily tolerates low to medium light. Plus, it grows these beautiful long roots that dangle down into the water. On the flip side, we have Duckweed. Honestly, consider this your mistake pick for a display tank. Duckweed has explosive, almost aggressive growth. It is notoriously difficult, nearly impossible to fully remove once it gets into your tank, and it will rapidly choke out all your light. Stick with the Frogbit as your first plant so you can easily manage your surface coverage. Let's round out the rest of the recommended squad here. As we just mentioned, Amazon Frogbit is fantastic for Betta and community tanks because of its fast, manageable growth. But if you have a low-tech setup or maybe a dimmer room, Salvinia is going to be your best friend. It has moderate growth and handles lower light beautifully. Then there's water lettuce. If you have a nutrient-heavy tank with a really high bioload, this thing is a heavy-duty nutrient sponge. It grows super fast. It can actually cover an entire 10-gallon tank in just 2 to 3 weeks, though keep in mind it does need a bit of tall canopy clearance for its leaves. Section 2. The zero-effort setup. How to plant without planting. Listen, if you have ever accidentally killed a rooted carpet plant because you didn't get the substrate perfectly right, this is where you start over. Setting these up requires almost zero effort. Here are your 4 incredibly simple steps. First, just rinse the plant under lukewarm water to wash away any shipping debris or those pesky hitchhiking pest snails. Second, float it gently right on the surface. Do not force the roots underwater. Third, turn off or redirect any strong filter outflow near the surface for the first few days so the plants aren't getting battered around. And fourth, just trim the overcrowded growth weekly. That's literally it. You just place them and walk away. They forgive beginner mistakes like overfeeding or uncycled water far better than any rooted plant ever could. Now, you might run into what's known in the hobby as the filter flow problem. This happens when a really strong surface current from your filter pushes all your beautiful new floating plants into a single clumped-up corner, or worse, just sucks them straight into the filter intake. It's a super common hurdle, but the fix is instant. You can just pop a simple floating plant ring onto the surface to corral them, or just lower the angle of your filter's outflow slightly so the surface water is much calmer. When it comes to actually keeping them alive, their needs are so incredibly basic. They require about 8 to 10 hours of standard 6,500 Kelvin to 7,000 Kelvin LED light daily. And because their roots dangle directly in the water column, they don't need substrate fertilizers at all. Think of them as highly efficient biological machines. They absorb nitrogen and excess nutrients straight from the fish waste in your water. Section 3. Avoiding common mistakes. The one golden rule of floating plants. So the absolute biggest mistake new keepers make is getting a little too excited, buying way too much, and accidentally choking off the entire tank's light. And that brings us to this crucial data point, 70%. You must never let floating plants cover more than 60 to 70% of your tank's surface, period. If you let them form a total blackout mat across the top of the water, no light will penetrate to the bottom, and any rooted plants you have down below will literally starve to death. Plus, a solid mat blocks vital gas exchange. Always, Always leave a third of your surface open. Now, what's really interesting about this next slide is Section 4, the plastic plant fallacy, real versus fake plants. A lot of beginners are pretty intimidated by live plants and naturally lean towards plastic decor. We hear this myth all the time. Fake plants are just as good and way less hassle. But the reality is the exact opposite when it comes to maintaining a healthy tank. A tank that relies strictly on fake plastic decor provides zero nutrient export. What does that mean for you? It means you are typically going to need much more frequent water changes to keep that green algae away, simply because there are no real plants in there to starve the algae of its food source.
When you compare them directly, live floating plants absolutely obliterate fake ones in pure utility. Look at water filtration. Live plants actively absorb nitrates. Fake plants do absolutely nothing. Yes, live plants require a quick weekly trim, while fake ones just need an occasional rinse, but look at the cost. A live starter portion is often cheaper, usually sitting at $5 to $15 compared to $8 to $20 for decent fake plants. Furthermore, live plants give you an amazing early warning system. If their leaves start turning yellow, you instantly know your water chemistry is off way before your fish actually get sick. And for breeding, live natural cover results in high fry survival, whereas plastic plants offer very low protection.
Section 5, the perfect betta sanctuary, creating instinctive comfort. Floating plants had this absolute behavioral magic to them, particularly for betta fish. Remember, bettas evolved in shallow, plant-choked natural waters in the wild. By adding floating plants, you are perfectly recreating that natural shallow water habitat. Bettas actually need surface resting spots to breathe, and covering just a third of a 5-gallon tank gives them a perfectly safe canopy without blocking their labyrinth organ from getting oxygen from the air. And it goes way beyond bettas. This shade radically reduces stress for shy fish like tetras, gouramis, and rasberas, really encouraging them to swim out in the open. And if you're breeding, this dense root structure beautifully catches bubble nests and hides newly hatched fry from hungry adults. So what does this all mean? The crucial point is this. Are you ready to work with nature instead of fighting against it? Floating plants are the ultimate biological shortcut. They give you clearer water, calmer fish, and way less algae with minimal effort. Don't fight your own ecosystem. Let the Float Squad do the work for you. If you want to dive deeper and see the specific plant recommendations and the exact gear we talked about today, you need to visit the TankZen blog for their full beginner plant guide. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy fish keeping.